This is Kwame, and this is Behind the Beats. So how I started in production, I never really knew what a producer was. And, at the time when I was 15, 16 years old, I was going to work on a demo. I had an odd and end job. I worked at C-Town. Anybody in New York knows what C-Town is. Worked at C-Town, put my checks together, and went to a studio with literally 2 months worth of checks, which wasn't even a lot because I wasn't even working but 2 days a week, and 2 months of checks, and I dumped it all on the table. Like, how much time can I get with this, and how soon can I get the time? Now, mind you, I never, I would dibble and dabble in making beats like that, but I never really did anything full, like a full-on production. So I had the records I wanted to sample. I had, the rhymes that I wrote and everything. So they gave me studio time Christmas Eve, actually Christmas Day, 12 midnight Christmas morning to 8 in the morning, like 1988. So we went into the studio and I recorded, I would say, a bulk, maybe 6 out of the 8 songs on the Boy Genius album. I did that in those 8 hours. So I did the rhythm and just different songs like that. I produced them, but I didn't know what I was doing because nobody else was making beats for me. So I just knew what records I needed to chop. I needed to know how I wanted to flip them. And if anybody who's like a hip-hop historian, my engineer was the late, great Paul C. And Paul showed me how to put it all up on the SP12. At the time, there wasn't even no 1200. It was the SP12 with the super big, giant floppy disk. And, I chopped these records up and, I taught myself how to produce, from default. And with that, I took that demo tape to a neighborhood friend, Herby Lovebug. If anybody knows, his production fame is Salt and Pepper, Kid and Play, Sweet Tea, Antoinette, Dana Dane. So that was a whole crew that was going on, and Herby's little brother was my best friend. So I brought it over to Herby, asked him what he thought, and I brought him some demos before, but my beats was super whack. My rhymes wasn't that whack, but them beats was terrible. And once he heard that, he went and took it to several record labels. And the funny thing was, he took it to Columbia Records, Epic Records, and Atlantic Records, and they all offered him a contract. But at that time, I didn't know he had the contract yet. At that time, even though I'm from Queens, my father moved us out to Inglewood, New Jersey. So I was in Inglewood, New Jersey, and I was running with cats like Redhead Kingpin, and we both got a deal. We got both offered a deal. Me, Redhead Kingpin, and the crew New Style, which is now known as Naughty by Nature, got offered a record deal on Sugar Hill Records. So wow. At just one point in time, I'm going to school, and in my backpack, I had Columbia Records, Epic Records, Atlantic Records, and Sugar Hill Records in my backpack. And I didn't even tell my parents because I was afraid. I was like, yo, man, I don't even know what they're going to do. And I looked at the Columbia Records was like this thick, the contract, the Atlantic Records was that thick, and the Sugar Hill Records was like a page. We want you to rap. I'm like, yo. There was no publishing, there was no nothing. And the funny thing is, Redhead signed, New Style signed. I was like, I ain't doing this. So, that's how I got into production. And the funny thing is, before I came out as a rapper, I had a record out as a producer first. I had a record out in mid-'88 on the female rapper Antoinette. Did this record called Baby Make It Boom. It was terrible, man. No disrespect to Antoinette, but we was trying to jack push it.
Right.
And so it was just one of them type of records, and I'm in there singing like James Brown, and it was just, it wasn't the one. But, and they got my name wrong on the credits. So, that was my first little step into production. But my real step into production was doing the first album, the Boy Genius album. And I was forced to do the whole album because Herby was so busy working on all the other acts, and I didn't want to be put on the shelf. So I figured if I did this much of the album, I might as well finish the album. So it is crazy because the credit on the Boy Genius says produced by Herby Lovebug and the Invincibles, and the Invincibles happened to be me. So that's how I had to pay my dues.
Right. Now, that record that you did for Antoinette, was that before or after I Got an Attitude?
That was after I Got an Attitude.
Okay. Because
nobody heard the record.
Okay.
It was that. It wasn't working. No.
Okay.
So don't even none of y'all look that shit up because it ain't gonna be there.
Now, after how well did your first album do? I know I bought it, but
first album went gold.
It went gold. Yeah. Okay. So your second album, you I think you introduced Tap Money into the crew.
Yeah, Tat. My first DJ, actually, rest his soul, was my boy since 5th grade, B Flat, and by the time the first album, it's one thing to do stuff in the studio, and just be about hip hop on your regular day life, but the rigors of touring and doing all that kind of stuff, B just wanted to go in a different direction. And what B did was he went and him and his brothers formed a crew called the 5th Platoon. And they had a record out in the 90s called The Party Line. So B and the 5th Platoon, they did their thing, but I'm like, I need a DJ. And the funny thing was, I met Tat a year before I came out with my own album. Me, Herby Lovebug, Kid and Play, they did a show in Richmond, Virginia, and I was just tagging along. And the opening act was Steady B and Kool C from Philly. And so there was a blizzard. So it was all of us in this one little, it was like a cafeteria they had them performing in. I don't know what this place was. And it was just us. There was no way people could make it to the show. We was stranded. We couldn't get to the hotel. We were stranded at the venue overnight. And me and Tat just got cool. I had my little, because the record didn't come out yet, but I had the promo copies. It was like, yeah, man, I'm making a record. It's called The Boy Genius. I'm from Queens. I like your stuff. I like Bring the Beat Back. I knew that whole thing. I was a hip hop head, so I knew everybody's record. So me and Tat got cool, and we stayed in touch. And even after a year later, as my records were doing well, Steady's he didn't really have any records out at the time. So I was just like, hey, I'm about to go on tour for like 2 months. I need a DJ. What's up? And I knew Tat was one of the illest in Philly. So he just jumped right on board, and we've been rocking. We've been doing shows ever since, almost 25 years.
Wow. Okay. Now the song Only You, that has become a staple at like family reunions.
I know, right?
And like, are you still getting publishing? Because
definitely no. Only You. There's been times before production. We can get into that too. Before like my production career really kicked in. If it wasn't for records like The Rhythm and Only You, and one of the big boys, like those publishing checks kept me eating, and they still do pretty good now. So Only You was sold a good amount of records. It almost went gold. It's probably gold now, to be honest with you, because at the end of its run in 90, 91, it was in the 400,000. And that wasn't supposed to be my record. I wrote and produced that record for, of all people, Vanessa Williams. Vanessa Williams was trying to have more of a street sound.
Right.
Back in like 90, and they wanted to do this record, and I made Only You, and I wanted to make myself a feature on the record, so I threw one of the verses on the record. It was too late. By the time I got the call and did the record, everything, her record was a wrap. So then Only You was only supposed to be an experiment. And the reason why, I think to my default as an artist, my thing was, it wasn't about, like, a lot of artists, like, say, for example, Tribe Called Quest, they got their lane, and they stayed in their lane, and they did everything they had to do. if anybody listens to any of my albums, one album sounds different from the next. My whole thing was I was more concerned about, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this. A lot of stuff worked, a lot of stuff didn't work. So Only You was more of a social experiment because at that time, radio stations hated rap. 89, 90, they had slogans. Like I clearly remember, every city I would go to, most of the slogans were no rap workday. No rap between 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. They refused to play rap. R&B artists didn't mess with rappers at all. Sports players didn't mess with rappers. We were like, as positive as rappers were back in the days, we were what they thought we were what rappers are now.
Right.
That's the crazy thing. Yeah. And we were the total opposite of that. But it was like, get them niggas out of here. Like they don't want us any. So my thing was, all right, I'm gonna make a record like Only You, where I'm gonna do 50% rapping and have 50% singing. And Atlantic, I need you to push this as an R&B record. Don't push it as a rap record. Let's just see what happens. Let's just see when I pull into Minneapolis, when I turn on my radio at 9 a.m., will I hear Only You? Yep. When I go into Houston, will I hear Only You? Yep. When I go to LA, yep. You know, so, and as weird as it seems, Only You was played like that in every other state but my home state, New York. New York was like, this ain't a New York record, we ain't playing this record. But everywhere, I'm talking about, I have friends that were overseas, like, yo, I'm in Morocco, and they're blasting Only You. I'm in Egypt, they blasting Only You. We in Paris, they blasting Only You. And New York just never caught on. They just never understood it. But that was one of the experiments. It was like, you know what, let me see if this gonna work. And
right. Was that your biggest selling record?
Yeah, definitely. As an artist, that was my biggest selling record.
Right. So I know, Sil Johnson got his cut.
Did he get his cut? Of course. I wouldn't have got my. I wouldn't have been getting my cut if they didn't get their cut.
Was that keyboards? Was that keys on that song?
Mostly everything was played except for the obvious hits and stuff like that. But it was just like, it was a mixture of, like, I did everything on that record. Between sampling the different records that I sampled in the record and then playing live piano on top of that, then bringing a horn section in on the hook, but then sampling the horn section for the breakdown, all this kind of stuff, because I figured when I made the record, that's what the R&B dudes were doing.
Right.
So I had to bring all this live stuff in there, live bass, live, I didn't know let me just try this out. And it turned into that.
Okay. Let's fast forward to your first placement after Only You. Was that the Lloyd Banks record?
No. My first placement, my first unofficial placement, if you want to count it as a placement, was as a writer. Okay. I wrote the rhymes on Poison, Belle Biv DeVoe's Poison.
Wow.
So that was like my first.
For everybody?
I did Ronnie's, did some of Mike's, but then they changed Mike's, and then the finished product was just Ronnie's. So, but that's a whole nother issue. But that record was written in the back of Mike's car going into a club one day. Like,
really?
Yeah, I hated the beat, hated the song. It's like, I really need rhymes. I was like, I wrote, literally got a napkin and a pen. I was like, here, take this bullshit. I don't like this.
And it worked. It was a hit.
Yeah, but that was, I didn't understand it. But my first placement after that was I had a placement before Only You. My first production placement, I did a remix to En Vogue's Lies, and there was a single they had called Lies, and I did a version of that. And after Only You, there was just like some minor placements. There was placements way before Lloyd Banks.
Right. Were you live in the studio in Vogue, or they just sent you the?
No, they sent me. Yeah, I wasn't. I thought I was gonna be there, but.
All right, let's fast forward to the Lloyd Banks record.
Okay.
How did that come about?
So, at this point, I was getting placements. Like I had a record on the No More Drama Mary J. Blige album. That record was at 10 million at the time. So You know, that was doing all right.
Which record was that?
It was a record called Love. It was the first record on the album. So when you put the album on, my record. LL had an album out at the time called 10. I had 2 records on 10, and that was his last platinum album. And what else did I do? I did a Cameron Jewel Santana record for I don't know what the hell I did it for. It was so long ago. But it was like one of those mixtape type records. It never came out. But the buzz was out that I was doing records. So when I handed Sha Money a beat CD, just a random beat CD, the On Fire beat was already on the CD. And it was weird. Just like 4, 5, 6 months later, I get a call. Yo, this is Lloyd Banks' first single. How much do you send us an invoice? I'm like, wait, is it done? Yeah, no, we recorded it and everything. It's mixed and everything. It's about to come out. Out of nowhere. I'm like, all right. So then the record comes out, and it says produced by Eminem. Yo, I flipped. I was like, yo, I ain't been out in all this time. This is a record that's going to literally put my name back out there. I'm supposed to give it up? Fuck out of here. I ain't doing it. You know, M felt that the record needed hi-hats. So he added hi-hats. And he added some keyboard thing in the beginning, keyboard thing at the end. And he produced the record. Now, you could have called me and I could have added whatever you needed to add. But, you know, I understand the time thing, but don't say somebody produced a record when somebody didn't produce a record. In that sense of producing a record.
But you straightened that out.
Yeah, no. The record, you look at the record now, it says my name.
Right. Co-produced by Eminem.
Yeah.
Okay.
What would you like to do?
Yeah, what would you like to do?
Tell us about, you had a placement, you had another big record with the Tweet record.
Mm-hmm. Tweet, that was an interesting thing. Me and Missy wanted to work with each other for like ever. You know, I'm pretty sure my artist style helped influence her artist style, and you know, we just both highly respected each other. So when the time came, same thing. It was just like, you know, here's a beat CD. And one thing I take pride in, like, I don't hand people, well, in the days of handing out beat CDs, I didn't hand people just unfinished beats. Like, I mix my records. I make sure they are as perfect as they can possibly get before becoming a record. So when she wrote, you know, Tweet's record on top of it, I never had to go to the studio. I never had to mix the record. I never had to lay the track out. So what you hear on the record is from the beat CD, mastered.
Wow.
It's not even... I have a lot of records like that, but that was the first record that was done that way. Like, I ain't have to do, you know, we didn't have to do nothing. They just had to make sure the vocal levels were right, and that was it.
Right. Now, your discography, you have Christina Aguilera, you have Fantasia. Is like R&B your lane right now?
You know, it's weird. I don't... You know, I don't never venture out to say I'm just going to do R&B or I'm just going to do hip-hop or whatever. I think that with R&B, though, with R&B and pop, it gives me the freedom to do whatever I want. Unfortunately, with hip-hop, everything is very compartmentalized. It's either this type of rap or that type of rap, and you have to fit into that. If you're going to make a beat, it got to be an 808 beat with a, you know, and all that kind of, like, I don't got no time for that. Like, really, like, I'm trying to make something expand. Like, I'm trying to expand musically. I'm trying to make sure that when I listen back on a record that I've done 10 years from now or whatever, then I was like, yo, I really put my foot in that. And so when I make beats, I make them with rappers in mind. They're just orchestrated. like 9 times out of 10, it's like, you know, I may start electronically, but there's a string section that really comes in, and there's a guitar guy that comes in. There's, you know, there's horn players that come in, and when it's all said and done, I think certain rappers just look at it like, what am I supposed to do with this? Where singers will be like, yo, I'll murder that. And I'll be the guy on the R&B album with the harder R&B records.
Right.
But literally in my head, like, somebody should be rapping over this. You know, so it just turns out that way. Like, seriously, all the records, every record that I've done, I think a lot of producers have their way of putting records out and getting placements and stuff like that. I just don't think I fit in that zone because, you know, my placements are, I got a good amount of placements. I have a good amount coming out, but they're all like very organically driven. You know, like for example, people will think about the Tweet record or think about the Lloyd Banks record, but one of the biggest records I ever did, well, the biggest record that I ever did was for Will Smith, and people don't really realize that was a record that was #1 in 15 countries. And
Get Jiggy with it?
No. Switch.
Oh, you did Switch.
Yeah, and I remember getting a publishing deal when I did Switch, and the publishing company was like, yo, if you do this Will Smith record, we want the deal back. Like, you will kill yourself if you do that record. I'm like, why? Like, you know, how he don't deserve a record like this one don't deserve a record. Like, everybody, if you're an artist and you in that lane that you in, my job as a producer is to be able to make a record in that lane.
Right.
Like, I can't put myself in a box and say, I only do this and I only do that. So, you know, that whole thing behind, I'm kind of getting out of context, but the whole thing behind my production style is to be able to, like, I think of it like clothing. If I'm going to tailor make you a suit, it's not going to fit you and it's not going to fit you. You know what I'm saying? But my job, I'm a tailor. So whoever walks through that door, I got to make a suit for that person. And that suit is that music. And so like my whole thing is just about tailor making and dealing with that on that way.
Right. Is the dog snoring?
Yeah.
Are there any artists out there that you have not worked with that you want to work with?
It's weird. There's artists that span music that I really want to work with. Like, some dead, some are alive. Like, for example, like, I was gunning to work with Amy Winehouse. I was I was going to London every other month. I was just like, yo, okay, check this out. Check this one out. Okay, we got to do this one. And, you know, obviously that's not going to happen. So it's artists like that. Just the other day, like, I had to sit down with Kool G rap. I'm like, look, man, just come in the studio. Just come in. You ain't got to pay nothing. Let me just give you these.
And that's what we're going to play in a few minutes. I want to hear the Kool G rap piece.
No, I ain't even make them yet. I'm just sitting with G rap. I'm like,
that's crazy.
I'll come up with some shit that you don't even think that I would come up with. You know what I'm saying? So you have a span. You got a Amy Winehouse over here, Kool G rap over there. You know, anybody from, like, I would love to do an A$AP Rocky record. I would love to do a Jay-Z record. I've done Jay-Z records. They just never came out.
Really?
But I would love to have a Jay-Z record that comes out. Just because I've known him since 88, 89. I've seen the growth, and that's a rapper that I can actually believe what they're saying. So it helps me make the record. Like, if somebody just comes in here out of nowhere and they just spew a bunch of garbage out of their mouth, I'm just like, I can deal. You know, I can take it or leave it. But, and that was another thing about the R&B records. An R&B record, they're going to talk to you about one or two things, love or not wanting to be in love. Pretty much. So there's nothing that you can or can't believe. So when it comes to rappers, it's like, I like to zone in on rappers. Like, I would love to do a J. Cole record.
I can see that.
You know, it just, the whole thing, like, One of my favorite artists to work with was Method Man. I would love to do another Method Man record. I would love to do a Redman Method Man record, just because. You know, it's like picking out people that people probably wouldn't think about doing a record for just because they may not be on the radio right now. At the same time, one of my favorite young rappers to work with, he doesn't have a record out right now, but is Astro from Brooklyn. Like, I like working with Astro, you know, because he understands hip hop and he understands that he has to make a certain type of record, but he doesn't have to not have integrity if he makes a certain type of record. And, you know, this was a kid understanding this at 14, 15 years old. So I got to respect that. You know, I would love to have a Nas record. You know, these are, because I like to be inspired by the artists that I work with. The list can go on, man. There's just so many people that I really, 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 really want to work with, you know.
Right.
I want to work with Janelle Monáe. You know, it just depends, man.
For upcoming, you know, not so known producers, what would you suggest as far as?
I'm not so known producer. No, go.
Yeah, but you have credits. Like, how would you suggest they go about doing beat tapes? Should they do drops? Should they, you know, fully master and mix the beats before they give them out? Should they do snippets? Like, what's the best practice?
It's a little list. First, when you make a track and you put your track on whatever you put it on. You put it up on SoundCloud and you share your link or whatever you do. Never leave room for an excuse. Like, for example, don't play me a record and go, well, it's not really mixed because I didn't have the blah, blah, blah. Either play it or don't. Your music is you're supposed to get your music to the point where it speaks for itself. And me, as an experienced person, would then come in and say, yo, it sounds perfect, or yo, you know what, this is dope, but you need this, that, and the third. Never give your music excuses. That'll kill a meeting immediately. Whether you're a seasoned producer or a new producer, you coming into an artist and you start giving all these excuses why it don't sound right before you even play it, you planting it in the person's mind that it ain't gonna sound good. So that's number one. Number two, don't do a track because somebody else did a track like that. If I go, yo, why did you put this in there? Because everybody's putting that in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, then what's the difference between you and everybody? That means I can go to anybody for your music. If you're doing what everybody else is doing, understand what's going on right now and incorporate those elements. Don't just go all out the box with it. But your music is your signature. And everybody's signature, everybody's fingerprint is different. And I think a great producer understands that they need to have some sort of signature on their tracks, because if you don't, you know, you may get some placements here and there, but you're interchangeable, and you don't want to become one of those people that are interchangeable. You want to become an asset. You want people to come after you because you can supply something that the rest can't, and not everybody can do that. Now I can speak to 10,000 producers at one time. Out of those 10,000, there's only 2 of y'all are going to be able to do that. But it doesn't mean that the rest of them can't try to do that. You know, try to be as much of an individual as possible. And I think the third, the biggest thing is give people a reason to mess with you. Like, for example, one of my reasons when I work, say, on R&B records, 9 times out of 10, the R&B records are slow paced. So they understand that I have a knowledge of music, and I can take my knowledge of music and apply that to a harder edge track, and I can supply both ends of the spectrum, where most R&B producers cannot. They're just musical. But when they try to bring that hip hop element, you know that they're trying to do it. It's not a natural thing. So if I get a lot of R&B or musical work, because it's not just R&B, it's pop, it's film, it's television, it's hip hop, they come to me because I have an understanding of both sides of the table, and most producers don't. So you have to, as a new producer, figure out what your angle is. It could be the same angle as mine. You do it better than me. Whatever. Figure that out. Realize it, and lock in on it. You gotta lock in on it because that's when people start buying your material. I remember before I was placing tracks, like I would be making beats that sound like Trackmaster beats or whoever, or Hitman beats or whatever, because I'm like, this is what they want. With the little hi-hats and the triangles and the scratches every 4 bars and everything like that. And I'm like, yo, that ain't me. I don't even like beats like that. It's not even me. So once I figured out what I am and who I am, that's when the placement started coming. And of course, it's also the who you know game. You can't be the hottest dude in your apartment. You got to be able to figure out a way to get your stuff out there and meet people. And the best way, and it's actually the way I did it as well, because my name was dead and stinking between 1993 and 2000. So the way to get back out there was I was running around producing as many local acts as I possibly could. Just local artists that had little budgets to put out, make their little CDs or make their tapes, or they'll do shows and they'll do that. So as they spread their word out, somebody's gonna ask them who did those beats. Oh, you remember that rapper Kwame? Word, he got beats. Then they come, and and it catches on, and then people realize what you're doing and how you're doing it. But you gotta find a vehicle for your beats. You can't just throw beats online and think people are gonna hear you. If you're a high school kid, I guarantee you, if you're dope in school with beats, there's a rapper or a singer that's dope in your school or the school around you or whatever. Musicians find each other. When I grew up, I knew nothing but rappers and singers and other musicians because we just find each other. And once you do that, you put all those things into play. And then the most important thing on top of that is don't give yourself a timeline and don't quit. And it may sound corny, but when you quit, stay quit. Because there's no quitting in it. Like, I don't even have to tell my age, but I ain't young. And I've been doing it every day, all day, since I was 14 years old. Seriously. Wow. And there's been ups and downs, but since I was 14 years old, I've been doing music and focusing on doing music as a profession. And I may have had a bunch of placements, I may have done it, but in my mind and in my gut, I don't feel like I even did what I wanted to do yet. So it's like, I still stay hungry. I find whatever I could possibly find to keep myself hungry.
Any chance that you'll pick up the mic anytime soon?
Well, as far as rap stuff goes, on one end, me and some cats, like, hip hop heads may know me, Special Ed, Chubb Rock, Dana Dane, Moni Love, and also Greg Nice. We formed this crew called the Alumni. And actually, we're currently on tour. And we go out together and we get on stage, all of us on one stage at one time, and we just throw each other's records at each other. We just record after record after record after record, and we do this whole hip hop experience, because as an artist, just as a rapper, that's like my equal love to doing music. So I keep that stage aspect going as well. At the same time, putting together new material for that crew. Easier said than done, but it's a mission that we've been on and working, just as a producer, because I take off the group member hat at that point, and I get in here as a producer, and I, get the crew together and we make these records. also just as an artist, I record still. I still record records and stuff like that. Putting them out. It's gonna happen one of these days, but for me, I'm gonna do it because I just like to do it. You know, I'm not the dude you're never gonna see. Like the thing I hate when I see cats from my era or maybe before, they'll put something new out and they just start beefing. They just like, y'all kids don't know nothing. I'm the original and this is how it used to be done, and this is what hip hop really is. Like, man, I don't got no time for that, man. Like, no kid wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. You'd be the old man beefing about stuff. So, like, for me, I'm not that guy. I'm just like, back to my experiments. I have ideas that I want to put on the record. I make certain types of beats that I know are good, but I don't think lesser experienced artists would get. So those are beats I probably won't push or push for submission, and so I'll record them because I still make tracks like building a whole record. I don't just make here's a beat and you just figure it out from there. Like I make tracks with a whole song in mind, so certain things just come out a little bit way left field, and those are the joints that I keep for myself. And then when I get a good amount of those that I feel are solid, I'll put them up, put it online, and just get on Twitter and say, hey, I got music, listen. And let it go from there. I'm not gonna stress it.
Any chances of that alumni tour coming to DC?
Yes, we're doing the Howard Theater. We are doing the Howard Theater in December. I just don't know.
Wow.
The date.
Okay.
Yes, but the answer is yes.
Nice. Did you produce the Jasmine Sullivan record that you were in the video for?
No.
Okay.
Sounds like a record I would do. How the hell did I even end up in the video? I think it's just
you were in the video. Pete Rock was in the video.
Yeah. No, Jazz. I've worked with Jazz a lot.
Okay.
And I think there was because of that old school feel. She called me up, and then I came through.
Okay. Last question. Let fans know something about Kwame that they don't know that you haven't discussed today.
Oh, I haven't discussed today. I am the leader of all geeks. I am like the biggest toy collector, comic book collector, sneakerhead, and to get my mind off of the crazy politics of music, I run a website called Geek Mode Online. And Geek Mode Online basically focuses on me going to people like me. Like it could be, say, somebody, it could be Eminem, it could be Just Blaze, it could be Vin Diesel, it could be all these different people I may know, and I'll say to them, what are you geek for? And you'll be surprised that or Pete Rock. Like Pete Rock is one of the people that we're going to put on the site. Pete Rock is a avid Marvel Comics fiend.
Yes, we've had conversations on Twitter.
So like, it's gonna just showcase Pete, or Vin Diesel is a fiend for Dungeons and Dragons. Like he'll stay up all night playing Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of people won't know that. Or Nick Cage is a crazy superhero fiend. He named his son after Superman. His name is Kal-El, after Superman. That's how. Nicolas Cage's name isn't Nicolas Cage. It's Nicolas Coppola. Cage is from Luke Cage from Power Man and Iron Fist. So it's like, I get with dudes like that. Just Blaze is a crazy Star Wars head.
I can see you and Just Blaze.
Yeah, no,
I see it.
So
looking around.
So Eminem is a crazy G.I. Joe and He-Man head. So it's like finding out. As soon as I find out, I get to them, and we officially, like, it's up now, but all those official interviews and stuff like that launch in 2014, and so it's geekmodeonline.com. It's like it shows you anything, any dope sneaker, if it's related to superheroes and comic books, it's up there. A hoodie, if it's related to comic books, it's up there. Action figures, articles, reviews, all that kind of stuff. So And then next year we're gonna throw parties. You know, throwing like there's a thing with cosplay. And if anybody knows what cosplay is, it's like people dress up like their favorite superhero. Do I do that? Hell no. But I suggest guys come to these things because the chicks when they come in dressed like Wonder Woman and Storm and you will bug out because these chicks will not be like that on a normal day basis. And they come in looking like Catwoman. You're like, yo, what just happened? So, you know, we're gonna be doing parties like that. You know, it's just a whole experience and a whole lifestyle that America, for the most part, doesn't think the hip hop or the black community are into. They just think it's the 40-year-old fat dude down at home playing their video game.
Who you think the most powerful hero in DC Comics is? To me, it's Firestorm.
Well, I'll put it like this. See, you gonna have these guys got me. It's a setup. You guys set me up. I understand Firestorm. You know, my guy is Superman, of course. People hate Superman because he's
you and this guy right here.
Too powerful. But between Superman, it's always the big two. Superman and Batman are my dudes. But my real dude for real is Captain Marvel, Shazam.
Really?
Because
why?
I consider Shazam the perfect superhero. Because superheroes are made for kids for the most part. Shazam represents what every little boy wants to do. He's a little kid. He says a magic word. He's the most powerful superhero. He's just as powerful as Superman at that point. But he doesn't change into a grown man. He looks like a grown man. He's strong like a grown man, but he's still 10-year-old Billy Batson in the back of his head. So his take on things are as innocent as a kid's take on things. Like if an adult goes into a situation, they look at it in a different way. They try to rationalize it. They try to be politically correct, whatever. Billy Batson goes in, I'm just getting his ass out of here. I ain't got no time to be thinking about he did wrong, but then he should be. No, this is a situation, and I'm going into the situation, and I'm handling it. And then I'm going to say the magic word, and I'm going to my 4th grade class, and I'm calling it a day. And I got a tiger that can talk.
But he gets his ass whipped by Black Adam. Like
Black Adam has been that powerful for 10,000 years. And Black Adam, you're not going to get Black Adam to say his name to go turn into some skeleton. Because he's going to age, the way he is. So he's found a way to permanently be all-powerful. And then sometimes Black Adam's a good guy. Sometimes he's a bad guy. He rules he's a ruler of a country. You come into his country, try to cause some crap, he will smash your face in. Other than that, leave him alone. Leave his kids alone. Leave his wife alone. He'll be cool with you. Sometimes he spazzes out. What can you do?
Okay.
But like that whole Shazam crew, I mess with them. I really like that.
Yeah. Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Batman, Robin, white.
But Superman is your dude.
Superman's tight, but it still gotta have some, have some soul in there too.
That's why there was this cartoon that was out, Young Justice.
Oh yeah.
And that shit was so dope because it was like, it was like Robin and everybody's sidekick, but at the same time, they incorporated so many different ethnicities of superhero in there. The feel of this can't be duplicated. Most of the stuff I'll have in the computer, but I need this feel. And even I'll take some of the Logic or whatever drums I get from wherever I get them and funnel them, resample them here because I feel like you could be a little bit too clean at times, and being too clean takes some of that crunch away, and like I need it to knock, like And I don't need it to generically not no crazy 808 or whatever. I just need some other kind of knock to it.
You were saying?
So I was saying that when I was younger and I would perform in like the DMV area, I would always incorporate go-go with my shows. Like as many times as I could, I would try to get the cats from Rare Essence to play with me when I would rock. And just like a whole crew, Salt and Pepper, Kid and Play, Herby, Love Bug, myself, we really love go-go. We used to play go-go tapes normally. Driving through New York, blasting go-go tapes, and they looking at us like, what the hell? Like, people just don't get it.
Yeah.
Right,
you know,
right.
Whenever I was in D.C., hanging out in D.C., I would always go to the Black Hole. That's the one spot I remember because I remember, like, my first go-go, be on stage, you know, shit was just rocking, and then I just hear, take it off. And I'm like, what? And then it'd just be two naked chicks on each side. I'm like, whoa, what is going on? This is how y'all do it? I'm here every week. Let's go. Yo, so, you know, it was the best, man. It was the best. I haven't been recently at any kind of go-go scene. I hope it's still the same. But when I was a kid, you couldn't beat it. Always going down to DC to get some tapes, man. Always.
I'm gonna try to set up a Kwame Rare Essence record. I gotta hear that.
Yeah.
I gotta hear that. Cause you know, Cube came down. He did a whole set with Rare Essence too. Him and Yo Yo.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Dope.
And you know, of course, Dougie Fresh Love Go
Yeah.
too.
Yep. Now you couldn't go to, like, it was the rule. You cannot go to DC without playing some go-go.
Exactly.
And I think, I don't know if it was Essence. It was between Essence, EU, or Junkyard at the time. And I remember I was the headliner. This is before I learned my lesson. And they were the opener. And they got on and everybody wilded out. And then we got on and the audience was like, whatever, kid. Bring back them dudes now. There was matter of fact, I just saw a all-female go-go group called Belladonna.
Yes.
I just saw them.
They're
a
dope.
month ago. So they another R&B artist that I work for, Vivian Green. She did a show in DC maybe 2 months ago, and I went down there with her, and Belladonna was the band for her. They did her backing band, and then they did their own set and murdered it.
Can you get A. Marie hot again?
It ain't about me.
Please reach out there. I love A. Marie.
That's another artist I used to love to work with. Yeah, A. Marie's dope, man.
Yeah.
A. Marie's dope. I don't know what she's doing, but she's dope. Like that whole, like the thing that I give Rich Harrison, man, like who's one of my favorite producers. Rich definitely understood how to incorporate that go-go infusion with some of the records that he did, and a lot of people didn't know that he was doing that. But you can only be from that area and understand those percussionary type of records. Another person who does that a lot of people don't get, is Pharrell. Pharrell always adds that.
The Nelly record.
Those a lot of records he's done.
Yeah.
He always adds that element that you can only, if you know the music, you know where that element is coming from. It may not be that, that tempo or that actual beat, but there's elements that are pulled from those records, those percussionary elements that, if you don't know that go-go, you ain't never doing it.
Ooh, you was rolling hard with Herby Love. How come you wasn't in any of the house party movies?
Yo, let me tell you something, man. It's so funny. I look at house party. I was there. I was literally there when those movies were being filmed.
Wow.
Salt and Pepper wasn't in the movies either. And it's so funny. You watch House Party 1 and you pick out how many Kwame lookalikes are in that movie. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I remember literally going on the set and be like, what's this bullshit? Man, you can't disrupt the set like that. I'm just saying, like, damn. I could stand there too, you know. Like, you don't have to get the dude with a wig on, with a streak in his hair. Like, what? And polka dots. What type of... And then I would leave. You know, so it was just, I think at the time, the one thing that Herby did not understand, and it's nothing against him, he did not understand that what Herby achieved as a producer / manager at the time, only people now do it and capitalize on it. At one point in time, Herby had me, Kid and Play, Dana Dane, Salt and Pepper, Sweet Tea, Antoinette, the Kango Crew, maybe one or two, his own project. So I'm at 8 different artists at one time on 8 different labels. Wow. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whether he was producing all of it or not, that's for the aliens to come and figure out. But what he achieved was to have all these things going on. Then he had one group, a major female artist. They were selling 5 times platinum when people were only going gold. You know, you had another group that was in major films. You know, somebody like me doing a lot of things, you know, just visually and trend, fashion sense and all that kind of stuff. All these things going on. And what he never did was put everybody together. Like, for example, there's no reason why there was never a Salt and Pepper Kid and Play record.
Right.
That makes no kind of sense. There's no reason why there was never a Kwame Dana Dane record. Or, you know, just whoever. It just, or just a crew. You know, if me, Salt and Pepper, Dana Dane, Kid and Play were real popular at the time, why aren't we on a record together? We were in each other's videos, yes.
Right.
But everybody was still thinking like individuals. No one thought like they were on a team. And even the team leader didn't think like a team. It was just, how much can I get everybody's individual money instead of pulling this team together and making it work, you know, because like I look at Herby's template, and to this day I can honestly say that's the template I chase. You know, my ultimate dream and goal is to have 5 or 6 different artists, and maybe I don't need to have YMCMB or whatever, anything like that. But what if I just had a dope artist on Def Jam and a dope artist on Columbia and a dope artist on I don't know.
Well, it's only 3 labels, so
yeah, I know. Warner Brothers or Interscope or Universal, and that'll be about it. You know, because then I don't have to worry about, if I had it like that, yo, everybody can come out this Tuesday. Then everybody can go on tour. I don't have to wait for, okay, you got to let your 5 months go, and then I'm going to put you out 5 months. Yo, we can all come out. And then all of y'all are so different enough that y'all not going to be rubbing against each other, and we can all go out and
right.
get money. You know, I don't think the business isn't set up like that anymore, but the template that Herb had was genius. It just was like he didn't take it to the next phase.
Right.
And it would have been crazy if he was able to do that.
I remember there being a Herby Love Bug compilation, but
yeah,
I don't
Herby's
remember.
Machine. It was called
right.
Herby's Machine.
Did you have a song on there?
No. That was the year before I came out.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted a song on there badly. I was like, oh, I can't be Herby Machine.
When the last time you talked to Herb?
I don't know. I don't know.
Years.
He doesn't live in the country. I don't know.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I haven't seen or heard.
I mean, did y'all end on bad terms?
No.
Okay.
No. Maybe in the very beginning, it was a, you know, I got to bounce, and Herby wasn't, you know, he wasn't going to stop it, but, you know, at the end of the day, Herby taught me everything I know, whether it was directly or indirectly. He taught me everything what to do, and he taught me everything what not to do. Just watching his example, I learned so many things that I use today and I implement on every artist that I work with today I use those lessons that I learned from him. So it'll never be a bad term. It's like being mad at your uncle that taught you everything when you were a kid. You can't stay mad at something like that. So.
Right. All right.